So the very first step is to cut to rough length. So you're going to need a tape measure and a square. So in the beginning, for example, if my project requires 21 inches, then you take your tape measure, put it down to one edge, and you can essentially take your pencil. I'm going to give myself a little bit extra. So draw a mark. Take an L-shaped ruler, put it up against an edge. So it's butt up against the edge. Take your pencil and draw the mark. And that's how you lay out. And we'll go to the radial arm saw. And our next step is to use the radial arm saw to trim off both of these ends, so this end and this end, so that they become nice and clean. Make sure your hands are out of the no hand zone, so hold them as far away as possible. And I'll start by just cleaning up this edge over here. Put it up against the fence, line it up. All right, and we'll turn this on. Remember that once this is unlocked, your hand needs to be super glued to the handle. So let's start. All right, my hand is now on the handle, and I'm going to unlock this. Now I'm going to switch hands. Keep my hand out of the no hand zone, and I'm going to make the cut. Shut it off. Lock it. Then use your piece of wood or a push stick to push that scrap off. And at this point, we are now going to cut on this line here. So we'll turn it on. We'll unlock it. And now we're going to cut it. Turn it off, and then lock it. And now we've cut to the rough length. So the next step is we're going to use the jointer to joint one of these faces. When you're jointing a face, you just want to make sure that if the wood is like a giant U, that the U shape is face down. So for example, on this piece here, you want to make sure that the U is face down. This is your first face that you're jointing, and not this one, because that's very wobbly and that's not very safe. Now, remember when you're using the jointer, you always want to make sure that you are using push sticks. All right, we'll turn the machine on. You'll also want to turn on the exhaust. Take your push stick, and we'll run this through. Take a look. So it probably needs another pass. Probably 2 more passes. Yeah, probably again another 2 passes, but it's getting better. So that's looking pretty good. Shut off the machine. So you know you're done jointing the face when you essentially have 2 things. One, the surface is smoother than it was before, but more importantly, you want to make sure it's flat. Take a square and hold it up against the flat side, and essentially you want to make sure that there's very little light shining through. So this is pretty good. I'll give you an exaggerated example. There's a lot of light shining through, so you probably don't even need a square for that, but this will definitely need more passes on the jointer. We now have one jointed face, so before you forget, it's good to take a pencil and just mark it to kind of remind yourself that this is the jointed face and that it's good. So I've marked it. Now you're going to take the flat jointed face, and that goes right up against the fence. So right up against the fence. This is a lot of knife to cut something so short, so it's a good idea that before we cut this, we're going to bring the fence forward. To do that, make sure that you lock the machine out or unplug it. The lockout switch is in the back over here, or you can press the mushroom button. Double check that the machine won't turn on you. That's pretty good. The lockup is over here, where the fence adjuster will push that over here. And what we want to do is we just want to bring that forward so that we are reducing the amount of exposed blade. Super important. Tighten the fence up when you're done, and make sure that's not going anywhere. Now we're ready to joint our piece. We'll take the jointed face, put it flat up against the fence, and now you're going to need a push stick. The push sticks that you used for jointing the face are not the same ones you're going to be using for the fence. They're kind of floppy. Instead, you want to use a push stick something like this. And the important thing is to make sure that your hand never passes over the blade. So what's going to happen is you're going to put your hand here, and then your other hand will push this flat up against the fence. You're going to push this forward. Your hand is going to move back, 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 and now that we have nowhere to go, over the blade. So let's see this in action. We'll turn our machine on. Turn it on. Hand flat over the fence, other hand on the push stick. The hand is moving back, 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 and over. And as you can see, it's smoothing out this one edge. You only want to do one edge. When you're done, shut the machine off. And again, grab your L-shaped ruler or square. Put that one side flat against the fence, the other on the edge, and make sure it's 90 degrees. So next, we're going to put our jointed face flat up on the table because the blade is going to clean the surface up. So we're going to raise the table, and as you can see, the table needs to be raised. So right down here is the table adjust. I'm going to spin it clockwise. Let's take a look. Yeah, still need to raise the table up. It's coming close, but our goal is to have the surface of the wood start to tap the little rollers here ever so gently. So maybe one turn, another turn. Okay, at this point, the wood is beginning to tap the rollers. We're ready to turn the planer on and surface this. Turn it on. Flat jointed face down on the table. Feed it through. All gone over. When you're using this machine for yourself, you want to turn on the exhaust. For me, I'm just going to keep going. Next, we will raise the table half a turn. And we're going to grab the handle here, and we're just going to move it just half a turn. So it's getting better. project.
So we'll raise it up half a turn.
We'll run this through again. Okay, we've cut to about a rough length. We've planed down using the planer to the final thickness. And so before you start cutting, there's a few safety features you want to make sure are on your table saw. First of all, you have your outfeed table over here. Make sure you have an outfeed table and make sure that there's nothing in the way. Because what's going to happen is you're going to take your push stick, you're going to push the wood through, and you don't want any obstacles. So I'm going to take this piece of wood and just get that out of there. Next, make sure that this splitter is up. And when you start to cut, make sure that this guard is down. That essentially prevents you from reaching into your blade. Once we have all our safety features, let's set up our cut. We're going to take our fence and we're going to start to adjust it. Remember, you want to take your flat jointed face that goes face down on the table, and you are going to take your nice jointed edge and that goes up against the fence. What you don't want to have happen is to put your weird, ugly, crooked side up against the fence, because then you won't get a straight cut. So I'm going to put our flat side down, and I'm going to adjust my fence to my final width. That's going to be my final width there. Take some time, lock the fence, make sure it's not going anywhere. It's about 5 millimeters or a 1/4 inch above. That's looking good. We'll put our fence down, our guard down, and we're good to go. Make sure that you have a push stick handy. I have a feather board here, so the feather board gets pushed up against the fence. I'm going to turn it on, and I'm going to turn it on. And what the feather board essentially does is it essentially keeps the wood against the fence. So I can focus on just pushing the wood this way. All right, so let's start. I'm going to turn the machine on. Now I'm going to keep an open palm in the beginning, and I'm just going to start to push forward. Now that my hand is up against the table, I'm going to use my push stick. Keep your push stick on the kept side or this side of the fence. All the way through. Turn the machine off. And wait for it to come to a complete stop before you grab this piece. Congratulations, you've now officially broken stock. So you can take your square and you can check all sides are 90 degrees, or all corners are 90 degrees rather. All faces are flat. And as you look, the opposing faces are parallel to each other, and the opposing edges are parallel to each other as well. We've now taken a board and we've made it completely flat.